Hickman and distinguished members of the committee. I'm Richard King. I'm from Liberty, and I speak in favor of LD 783. Maybe food choice is, and maybe it isn't a fundamental right. This is a legal question that I can't answer. Whether it currently is or isn't is not important. It should be. LD 783 makes it a natural and unalienable right in the state of Maine. Buying food, whether from a local farmer or from a supermarket, involves an element of trust. Despite the myriad of regulations and required inspections in the industrial food system, instances of contamination resulting in recalls, illnesses, and death are all too common. Yet we are asked, almost forced, to trust the corporate food system. The focus is only on the bottom line. We are appalled by the terrible conditions in the concentrated animal feeding operations, the unseen cruelties that the animals endure, the GMO corn and soy that they are fed, and the use of antibiotics and growth hormones that remain in the food chain and the environment. Do these GMO elements find their way into our food? I would like to see GMO labeling on all products, both food and feed, because my goats are not guinea pigs. We are concerned about the continued overuse of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers that are required to sustain monoculture farming and that are poisoning our land, our water, and us. Direct farm-to-consumer sales were traditionally unregulated. Going to a local farm to buy fresh food is one of the oldest and most natural commercial activities. Even though I can buy unlimited types and quantities of food from the supermarket, I am much more comfortable knowing where my food comes from and who has produced it. I prefer dealing face-to-face with someone that I know and trust. LD 783 is a major step forward toward food sovereignty in the state of Maine, and I sincerely hope that it is allowed to be put before the people so that we can decide to make it a constitutional right. My wife couldn't be here, but she says Dzień dobry, and I can't speak with her Polish accent, but I'll read a few of her words. It is our duty to protect ourselves, even if against the law, by taking the right to save seeds, to grow, raise, and consume nourishing natural foods of the earth, and exercising the right to refuse depleted, toxic, manufactured commodities. It must be our right to purchase food from hunters, fishermen, and farmers, and to shun agribusiness. Food that harms is not food. Law that allows harm is not law. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And we do have, is it Maria you said?
Yes.
And Mrs. King. Yeah.
Thank you. Heather Spalding.
Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Senator Edgecombe and Representative Hickman, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Heather Spalding, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association, MAFGA. On behalf of our 11,000 members, I'm happy to support LD 783. MAFGA envisions a Maine agriculture that can generate the vast majority of the state's food supply with locally, organically grown produce. Our membership is comprised of farmers, gardeners, and consumers who share a goal of ensuring that Maine families, regardless of income and location, have access to local organic food. Demand is growing each year, and the number of farmers and farms is increasing as well. But in order to achieve a goal of healthy food access for all, Maine needs to ensure that responsible policies are in place at local, county, state, federal, and increasingly international levels. There are far too many policies in place that undermine a citizen's efforts to secure fresh, local, and ecologically produced nourishment. The USDA estimates that 15.1% of Maine households, or more than 200,000 individuals, are food insecure. The number of Mainers who are food insecure has increased significantly in recent years. Maine ranks 17th in the nation and first in New England for food insecurity. MAFGA supports collaboration within the agricultural community to identify and create a food system that is not only safe, but also allows farmers to meet the demand for local foods without excessive government regulation. Supporting local food production has been one of MAFGA's priorities since MAFGA was established in 1971. We would like to express our respect and appreciation for Representative Hickman's efforts to move this discussion forward through a constitutional amendment. And when thinking about this bill, it occurred to us that the U.S. Constitution should have such an amendment. But as with many other bold initiatives, it is fitting that Maine leads this discussion. The big challenges will be in implementation. Attached to this testimony is a document that may prove helpful in working through this in months and years to come. It's a position statement that our board of directors adopted about a year ago entitled Farmer Autonomy, Consumer Choice, and Science-Based Regulation. Thank you for your consideration of this important proposal, and we look forward to working with you as Maine's agriculture becomes more accessible, more local, and more organic.
Thank you, Heather. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Next up is Alan from Charleston. I think I butchered your last name far too many times.
It's Clements.
Clements.
It sounds sort of French, but
Mary Ann Johnson will be next, Jane Ramsey, Susan Guzman, followed by Rebecca Wentworth, Autumn Brooke, Elizabeth Charday. From Auburn. Those are on deck in case they're in the overflow.
Hi, good afternoon, Senator Hitchcock and Representative Hickman, members of the committee. My name is Alan Clements. I live in Charleston. It's a hotbed of agriculture in Penobscot County, rural Penobscot County. I'm sort of a part-time farmer. I have farmland, but I do other things, and I'd like to do more. But I'm here today to support LD 783 and to ask you to pass this bill out of committee onto the legislature and hopefully onto the electorate of the state of Maine. And let's give everyone a chance to vote on it. I think the need is exhibited in part by a good example of this need is what was mentioned before about the legal position and the legal statements by the FDA about what our rights really are. I think that's quite telling, and I think it demonstrates the need. I want to echo so many other things that I've heard in favor of this bill, and I won't get into all of them. I sort of picked out one thing that I thought might be a little bit unique of my viewpoint that hasn't been said. I travel around New England quite a bit, not southern New England, not so much Connecticut, Rhode Island, but Massachusetts and Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, of course. And Maine is approximately the same size geographically as the rest of New England combined. And I think in some ways our image doesn't match our physical reality sometimes. And I'm often asked, what's going on up there? Or what about this? Or what about that? And I was recently asked, for example, about the religious bill that, I'm not sure if it's Senator Burns or Representative Burns, I mean, no disrespect, but I don't know his title. I was asked about that, and I said, oh, no, it was withdrawn. And I said, I think people, realistic people sensitive to income tax and tourism prevailed or something, and we didn't have to go there. But people are watching us. People are watching us, and there's huge markets down there. And things like this bill, I think, represent a wonderful opportunity to represent to the rest of New England and the rest of the nation as well. But I'm really focusing on New England, that in Maine we have agricultural policies of responsibility, consumer friendliness, that somehow we're a little bit hip to what educated people in southern New England that want good products from an agricultural state such as ours. It's just a wonderful opportunity, and I think we need to work on that image. And this is just one little piece of it, but it's an important piece of it. In fact, if it's defeated here, it would be a poor reflection on us. So I'm always in favor of supporting agriculture and developing that support in the rest of the New England. So, yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Alan. And it is important that even if you don't have a long written testimony, you just want to get up and say I support or I oppose or I'm either for or against, and would you let us know how you feel? Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Alan.
Mary Ann Johnson.
Thank you for having me, the Agricultural Committee of Maine. Thank you. My name is Ariane Johnson, and I am from Waterville, Maine. I go to KVCC, Kennebec Valley Community College, and I study sustainable agriculture and research. And I'm a person who buys organic food. I've been doing it since I was 20 years old. I take it very importantly, and also as far as knowing whatever is labeled on the foods that I buy, I believe that people, if they put their U.S. dollars into what they buy, they should be able to, know if their food is healthy. I'm not saying that GMO foods are completely bad because there's no actual scientific proof yet, but people want to know, what is labeled, and so I do support the bill, sorry, for GMO labeling. And some people will end up buying, foods that
Well,
are
we're not
still
doing
labeled.
labeling, but this
right.
is Representative Hickman's bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And food for everyone.
Correct.
Yes. So I also support that too. That food should be, available to everyone. People should be able to do the fishing that they need to do to support their families. So yes, I support that.
What are some of the names of you're taking an agricultural course, you
Yes.
said? Do you know the names of any other programs that are offered at the school?
Oh, they also have culinary arts.
Well, I meant agriculture and nature.
Okay, and agriculture, crop production.
Crop production?
Sustainable agriculture, the basics, sustainable agriculture. Let's see, just machinery and, what is that?
Ag mechanics?
Yes, mechanics for on-farm, animal science, soil science.
Oh, this isn't new to me. I didn't realize that was happening.
And we have been talking a lot about GMO foods, so, and the importance of that people, pretty much everybody in my class almost supports the fact that they would like to see that GMO foods will be labeled. So,
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Jones.
all right, thank you.
Next is James Ramsey.
Welcome, James.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Ashton, Representative Hickman, and me. I don't represent one group unless it's just old people. People who survived. My wife and I, 2 dogs and a cat, came to Maine 44 years ago. And I've been involved in education for 42 years, coaching, teaching, consulting. Had organic gardens during that period of time. Been involved in environmental capacities at different levels in the town of Smithfield, where I'm from. Chairman of the planning board for 10 years, but really able to provide regulations or policies which has helped stabilize land usage. And unfortunately, I see what's wrong around. But when I came to Maine, just the nickname a year ago, not a year ago, I lead. Made me feel very proud. And through the years, that pride has only increased relative to environmental decision-making and social service decision-making in the state of Maine. And as several people have said, just being involved in society and community, it does lead. As an educator, quality of life for my students and their children, my grandchildren, is very important. So the issue or the idea of not having something as fundamental as a choice to know what you're eating just sounds like a draconian, absurd reality, but it's true. We're not asking, not supporting doing away with anything. It's just the right to know. And when we reach a point where that becomes controversial, I'm afraid we're on a slippery slope relative to democratic procedures, process, and so forth. So I hope the committee will think of grandchildren, food quality and choice, and there we go.
Thank you, James. Be careful though what you say about old people. I'm the oldest in the state senate.
Susan Luby, followed by Rebecca Wentworth, Autumn Brooke, Elizabeth Charest, Betsy Carroll, Stephen Roberts, Ellis Addison, Joy Metcalf, Carolyn Burke, Callie Burke, and Joey Rizuma. Those are the people left on the sign-up sheet.
Good afternoon, members of the committee, Senator Edgecombe and Representative Hickman. I'm here to support LD 783. And I'm here representing myself, my family, my friends, and future generations.
And your name again?
Susan Leidner. I've been passionate about health, nutrition, food for over 40 years, and I'm currently a yoga teacher. And I want to bring in a little bit of history. History being when we don't have the right to control or we don't actually know what's going on with our food. Back when genetically modified foods, for example, were introduced first by a major corporation, shortly after that, the rates, incidences of major diseases surged. Actually, cancer really surged, and other major diseases. For example, the FDA doesn't really test these foods, though, unfortunately, to know what's going on with them. And the person who's responsible in the FDA for our food, the food czar of the FDA, is a former Monsanto vice president. And he's the person assigned to watching the safety of our food. So if we have this ability to have control at a local level, I mean, what happens to, they're finding in tissues of fetal tissues, placental tissues from pregnant women, that there's remnants of these chemicals that are in our food. And some people are even feeling that these chemicals that are in our food that we don't have control over, and if the corporations run it and we don't get to run it on a local level, are eventually affecting the genes of future generations. So, and who knows? We don't really know what they're doing, what's happening with all this. So I invite you to strongly support this so that we do have control at a local level. And as everyone else says, we lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. My hearing isn't that good. I didn't catch the word in front of teacher. What do you teach?
I teach yoga
Yoga. Oh, okay. Thank you.
and former social worker for the state of Maine.
Thank you. Questions for Susan? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Rebecca Wentworth.
All right, I get horrible stage fright. I come from a theater family, so that makes sense.
So you're going to do all right.
I'm Rebecca Wentworth. I'm from Blue Hill presently. I was born in Clements Harbor. I've lived in D.C., New York, et cetera, et cetera. I have a huge history in that my great uncle was CEO of Southern Illinois Railway. This is one of the businesses that first cornered the meat market and drove farmers out of business, that created the beginning of the grange. So I feel very responsible for this guy. And I really feel like I have to say that the right to food is the right to a balanced economy. If we don't have the right food, we're going to have an unbalanced economy. And so I really don't have much more to say than that. So if you want a healthy economy, then we have to have this. It's just, it has to happen.
Well, we thank you for, and this is also for everyone here. You brought up something that we hadn't heard previously about the economy, et cetera. So thank you for that point. And also, if you have something in your testimony that you want to be sure you get in the 3 minutes, and it hasn't been said, that you need to let us know. That's important. So thank you.
Okay.
Did you follow what I just said?
No.
I knew you had that look on your face.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out if I said what I meant to say, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure I did.
Thank you.
Autumn Brook.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Autumn Bluff. I'm from Bowdoin, Maine, and I am a very concerned citizen for the condition our food has become on federal government levels of approval and allowances. I have become so concerned that I don't have the equipment to dig a nice big garden, but I have a willpower and I have a fear of what I'm putting in my body that's left unlabeled, that I chose to take a shovel and dig a 25-yard by 25-yard garden last year as I was grieving my father's death. And I felt that energy inside of me losing my father in March. And it hurt me so bad, I actually bowed right down on that garden. And I wanted to have that garden be a memorial to my father. And I asked God to bless this garden for the world to understand how dangerous our food is becoming, how out of control it is, how the control is being taken from us, the public, and it can necessarily come into our state governments. And we are here to voice that to you on an international level, TPPs, fast tracks, all these, whistleblowing backdoor deals. Monsanto has a right to, bring suits on a government or a country or any other, business enterprise. These are just whistles in the wind. However, as citizens and the public and just our own American heritage, I grew up on a farm in New Jersey, the Garden State. I mean, I ran chasing butterflies and having, laughing like a little girl, chasing puppy dog tails, okay? I learned quick how, hard it is for a farmer to work, or the invasiveness of another farm that could be affecting him, or a spray that's coming over that's not welcome. And these things in the 783, where I wasn't really prepared, and I'm just talking right from, my conscience right now, because I respect our state government. I am very proud of the Maine government, legislative, senator, all levels of it, and your committees, okay? And it gives us the opportunity to, because we know your days are full into, not having enough time to see the maybe web blogs we see, these, things coming out from Independent or, real news versus fake news. We pay attention to that, and it gets to the point that it's just way too much to chew or digest. So with our LD 783, it is a baby step, and I know it will require a lot of work, because I had a lot of questions with that, where the rights for, the pesticide uses or young farmers' way to grow food versus the...
Thank you, Autumn, and
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and sorry to hear about your dad, and thank you for the...
Well, my garden did good, and God heard me, and my dad smiled. Thank you.
There you go.
Question, Claudia.
Representative Dill.
No.
Me.
I mean, Representative Kinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just curious, in your garden, are you growing any of those delicious Jersey tomatoes?
I'm glad you said that, because I actually had a big trip to go to Moosehead on my way back from a family vacation in Jersey, and my mom's always, tell her, oh, take everything you want, honey, and their tomatoes are very meaty, and there is a very big difference. And that's one thing, I mean, I've been in Maine 27 years, more than I've been alive in New Jersey. But that, I was missing anything other than that. It was the agriculture, the food, the fresh produce.
Yeah.
And when I came home and I went to Moosehead, and my boyfriend at the time, oh, there is no difference, a tomato is a tomato. And when he tasted that, he was totally sold that New Jersey is the Garden State. That there really is a big difference, and probably the soil, I would imagine.
And it was vine ripened probably. Correct? Vine ripened on the vine?
Yeah, well, my mom.
Which
Yeah.
makes it.
And it was organic, you know.
Can I just follow up real quick?
Yeah. Representative Kinney has a follow-up question.
Well, more of a follow-up statement. I had family, I'm from New Jersey actually myself, and although I've lived in Maine since I was a year and a half, but we went down to visit family, and my mother actually got high. She ate so many of the tomatoes in there, no joke. They're this big.
Very good.
They're delicious. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Chardonnay or Charlie? I'm sorry.
It's Shardlow.
Chardonnay. Thank you.
Do I need to sign in?
Yes.
They will- yes, please.
I have a long name, so don't start that time. I'm very into it, so. Okay. Ready? Good afternoon, Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, and members of the committee. My name is Elizabeth Shardlow. I live in Auburn, and I'm here today on behalf of myself, my husband, and our 3 soon-to-be 4 children, at least count. I'm speaking out today because my children depend on me to provide them with nourishing, safe food so they may grow to their fullest potential. As any parent knows, food, especially healthy food, can be expensive, and the ravenous appetites of my growing children could easily bankrupt me, if not for my husband and I digging deep, planting seeds, chasing and processing chickens, and stretching our half-acre in-town lot to the very maximum limits of our municipal farming and agricultural ordinances. Shh, I'm on the Zoom board. We rely on friends, family, and local farmers to nourish our bodies. As the federal government, deeply connected to the industrial food corporations, has worked diligently to limit our food choices, many families like mine have had to get creative, pay more, or blindly trust the faceless labels on grocery store shelves. Recently, at a local farmer's market, while selecting the most amazing block of raw local cheese, aligned with the healthy cultures that my body needs, the cheesemaker gestured towards my obvious pregnancy and cautioned me that the cheese was made with raw milk. I only wish that the faceless spinach, tree nut, and hummus packages at my local store came with the same precautions before they killed countless Americans in recent weeks and years. If only the cantaloupes cared about my unborn child, for surely the companies selling them did not. While many people blindly rely on the federal government to protect their health, the real truth is that the FDA, USDA, CDC, and other agencies are in many ways threatening our health and our right to make sustainable, nourishing choices for ourselves and our children. At the end of the day, it is my responsibility to decide what's for dinner. Please protect that right and support the health of my children by voting ought to pass on LD 783.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Betsy Garrett, followed by Stephen Roberts, Ellis Addison, Joy Metcalf, and the Machias Group.
Well, it's a tough act to follow. My testimony is more nerdy.
But they are a really good group, folks. I appreciate that you're respectful of everyone testifying, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Betsy Garrett. I live in Knox and Representative Kinney. And I represent several organizations today: Food for Maine's Future, Local Food Rules, and the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. I come here today to speak in favor of LD 783. Cassie is handing you a copy of my testimony, but also a paper written by David J. Berg, a lawyer from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He developed the idea for this article from legal research that he had performed pro bono for the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. I'm going to speak today about a dissenting opinion by United States Supreme Court Justice Stephen Field in an 1888 case, Powell versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This was a case that pitted a small oleo manufacturer against the powerful dairy lobby in that state and hinged on the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, commonly referred to as the Due Process Clause. The court ultimately found in favor of the dairy industry. I'm not a lawyer, but this was a story that resonated with me, and so I read Justice Field's opinion. Here are some quotes. The Due Process Clause is found in the constitutions of nearly all the states and was designed to prevent the arbitrary deprivation of life and liberty and the arbitrary spoliation of property. It has always been supposed to secure to every person the essential conditions for the pursuit of happiness. Liberty, in its broad sense, as understood in this country, means the right not only of freedom from actual servitude, imprisonment, or restraint, but the right of one to use his faculties in all lawful ways, to live and work where he will, to earn his livelihood in any lawful calling, and to pursue any lawful trade or vocation. The right to pursue one's happiness is placed by the Declaration of Independence among the inalienable rights of man, and to secure them, not to grant them. Governments are instituted among men. The right to procure healthy and nutritious food by which life may be preserved and enjoyed, and to manufacture it, is among these inalienable rights, which no state can give and no state can take away. It is involved in the right to pursue one's happiness. The object and effect of the Act, this is the law that in Pennsylvania this was based on, notwithstanding its title, was not to supplement existing provisions against fraud and deception, but to prohibit the manufacture and sale of any article which could be used as a substitute for butter. However openly and fairly the character of the substitute might be avowed and published, to drive the substituted article from the market and protect those engaged in the market of dairy products against the competition of cheaper substances. Measures of this kind are dangerous even to their promoters. If the argument of the respondent in support of the absolute power of the legislature to prohibit one branch of industry for the purpose of protecting another with which it competes can be sustained, why could not the oleomargarine manufacturers, should they obtain sufficient power to influence or control the legislative council, prohibit the manufacture or sale of dairy products? The principle is the same in both cases. Equal rights to all are what are intended to be secured by the establishment of constitutional law against legislative power. Sorry.
Nope, you're really close. I'll make a note of that one.
Okay.
Questions for Betsy? Thank you.
Thank you.
While the other person is signing in, I advise each of you to read that last sentence. There were 1, 2, 3 sentences, but they're short.
Stephen Roberts.
Welcome, Stephen.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Stephen Roberts. I live in Swanville. I was a farmer. I'm now retired. Rather than repeat and be redundant all over the place, there's a couple of other points that we can throw into the mix here. First off, I came here today. My thought really wasn't so much for me as a realization that this is really about our children, their children, and so on. It's about the future of many people. So with that in mind, I also noted that we have the hunting, fishing, and foraging clause in there. And we must remember the tribal representatives really pointed out well earlier that this, what we have in these areas is a shared resource to be shared by all and not abused. So wording has got to be intended to so that we're all securing that, and we need to be able to depend on our state biologists and scientists, more sometimes than the politicians, to make sure that we are sustainable. Okay, so this is an important thing. The other thought that I've had here coming on, as I've been listening to this too, is maybe people ought to take a peek at the larger picture, the tiny picture, a bill like this, where I can sell to my neighbors, I'll probably open up my farm. But looking at that in a little bit bigger picture, right? 90% of our food is imported. All of the money that we spend on local food stays here. And as the demand for local food increases and more people are farming, it stays here. This is valuable too. All right? And so there's more to this can than a can of worms, if you will, but healthy worms, right? But there's more to this. I mean, this is a bill that's good for Maine. We have to be careful that we manage our resources. It's a shared resource, but it's going to generate jobs. It's going to, you know, its repercussions are just more than we really imagine. But we have to be careful. And that's my comment for today.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Any questions? Thank you.
Good.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, sir. Ellis Addison.
Welcome, Alice.
Thank you.
I'm representing the old today, too. Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm Ellis Addison. I'm the Director of the Bureau of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Resources at the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. And I'm speaking on behalf of the department in opposition to LD 783. This resolution proposes a constitutional amendment to provide that every individual has a natural and unalienable right to food. The department opposes this bill as we believe all citizens in Maine already have access to any and all the food they want, and the need for this proposal as a constitutional amendment appears to be unnecessary. The problem this bill is trying to address is unclear, and is also unclear why this topic would rise to the level of a constitutional consideration. Finally, we encourage the committee to fully explore and consider the potential consequences this proposal may have on Maine's food safety system and the potential resulting negative impacts on all Maine citizens. I thank you for your time.